And joining us now in studio, Lyba Spring, Sexual Health Educator with Toronto Public Health. Nice to see you again, Lyba.
Thank you
It's
for
been a long
inviting
time.
me.
You were here a long time ago.
That's right.
It's good to have you back. 28 years with the city now.
That's
eh?
right.
Good for you. Here is part of Ontario's scrapped sex ed curriculum. We're going to put up a graphic here just to share this with members of our audience who may not have heard. In grade 1, the idea was to be able to identify different parts of the body. Grade 3, understand different sexual orientations. Grade 6, learn about masturbation and wet dreams. Grade 7, learn about sexual activities, including oral and anal sex. Now, these points were part of a 206-page curriculum on health and physical education. How much of that 206 pages was devoted to sexual education?
Oh, I don't know the number of pages, but it's a healthy living curriculum. So it's part of learning how to be healthy in every way, around substance abuse, around nutrition. These are all, I mean, it's a huge curriculum, and the sexual development part is only one part of it.
My hunch was it was about 5%. I mean, it was a tiny part of the overall thing. Anyway, what's the thinking underlying the revised sex ed curriculum?
I think the idea was to pretty much concretize what we've been doing for many years and to make sure that what some people have been doing is done all over the province.
So whatever, I mean, what's good for Toronto should work elsewhere? Is that the idea?
Oh, would I say such a thing? What I mean to say is that we want to make sure that kids have the opportunity to become healthy individuals, including sexually healthy individuals. So because the work that many people have been doing around the province, including Toronto, because we've been doing this work all this time, we want to make sure that everyone has access to the same information and the same materials.
How would you like to see parents and teachers working together to make that happen?
The same way that we've been collaborating all this time. Public Health, for example, runs workshops for parents on raising sexually healthy children. We run parent peer training programs so that people in the same language group or culture group can then train other parents in their same group. We support parents when we go to parent councils, when we have an evening at the school to explain what they're going to be learning in puberty class. So we work hand in hand with parents and always have.
Now, I know there's something like 130 different languages spoken in the Toronto Board of Education. Do you do your programs in different languages as well?
I do. I do them in English and French. I've been doing a lot more French lately than English.
Okay. At what age do you think children understand the consequences of their actions when it comes to sex?
Oh, not till at least 16, I should think. But that means that they have to know a lot before that.
Okay. You need a lot to learn a lot before 16.
Oh, for sure.
And you endorse that list I read off the top. I mean, is that the way to go? You endorse that list?
Can we go one by one?
Let's go one by one. Grade 1, identify body parts.
Well, hopefully the parent has already taught their child the names for all their body parts. Kids know the word for nose, they know the word for eyes, and presumably they have a word for their genitals. Now, the word they have for genitals may be the dictionary word, it may not. They may have two words for genitals, one a cutesy word that they use at home, and also the dictionary word. So the expectation is by the time they come to school, they have that word. For the kids that don't have a word, they need a word.
Okay. Grade 3, understand different sexual orientations. So you got to know gay from straight by grade 3. Is that the idea?
Yeah, they're 8 years old. They watch television. They know that there are people who are gay. Some of the kids may have been in junior kindergarten and met a kid who had two moms. Again, this is not really news, but what they need to learn is acceptance. They have to learn how to accept and embrace diversity because that's what our country's all about.
Okay, but again, is this a one-size-fits-all? Is this, you know, you're teaching it this way in Toronto. Does that mean it's going to work for somebody who's, you know, going to school in rural Ontario?
Well, the Human Rights Code applies to all of Ontario and all of Canada. So what we're teaching is that people should not be discriminating on the basis of, and then we have our list, and that includes sexual orientation. So what we're teaching them is how to be good citizens.
Okay, I hear you, but obviously there are going to be more two-mom or two-dad families in the city of Toronto than there are going to be in towns of 300 people in rural Ontario.
Well, all the more reason that it should be a possibility for people to live together in peace and harmony with their neighbors.
Okay, grade 6, learn about masturbation and wet dreams.
Yeah, we've been teaching this forever. I mean,
forever?
Of course. Since I first started doing this work all those years ago, we taught them, well, first of all, let's talk about when a kid first touches his or her genitals. They're 6 months old. So at 6 months old, when they first discover it, the parent is either going to say, it's okay, you can touch yourself, I know it feels good, tickles, right? But, you know, they would either do that or some parents would slap their hands and say it's nasty. So they already have some idea about what touching their genitals is about. What we're saying during puberty classes is that they might feel they want to touch their genitals. If they want to, that's fine. If they don't want to, that's fine too.
Okay, you said during puberty. I'm trying to go back to grade 6. You're 11, right? In grade 6,
Yeah,
you're 11 years old?
That's right.
So that's a good time to start learning about masturbation and wet dreams?
Well, naturally,
I'm
because
just asking the questions here, Lyba. Don't get mad at me, okay? All right.
I'm going to get yelled at if I sound mad.
Grade 7. Now this, you won't be surprised, this was the one that got a lot of controversy. Learn about sexual activities including oral and anal sex. Grade 7, so you're 12 years old at that point.
That's right.
And that's right?
Well, when kids start experimenting, but in grade 9, they're about 14 years old, and about 1/3 of kids have had oral sex at least once. That's according to our latest statistic.
That's grade 9, though. It says grade 7 here.
And the reason why they need to know that oral sex has risks is because oral sex has risks. It's not a risk-free activity. Everything that we teach kids, we teach them before they need to know it. One of the reasons being that it's an opportunity to teach them to communicate about these things, to use the words. We have to teach them how to figure out what's okay for them to do and what's not okay for them to do.
Okay, that's key because my hunch was some of your critics thought that you were not teaching about the dangers of, you were teaching about here's some fun things to do that you might want to start enjoying in grade 7. Can I just be clear, that's not what you were doing?
No.
That is a key distinction to make, don't you think?
Yes, it is a key distinction to make. In fact, we have a pamphlet that talks about, well, it's called Wait for Sex, Why Should I? And we tell them that, you know, if you kiss and you touch, then these are activities that are pretty much risk-free. But once you start having higher risk activities, you need to know what those risks are and protect yourselves accordingly.
What's that called again? The thing you just
pamphlet?
referred to? Yeah.
Wait for Sex, Why Should I?
Wait for Sex, Why Should I? That's on our website. I heard you, Brosie. It's on our website. Okay. At what age should children be introduced to sex ed?
Oh, well, I guess it depends on what you mean by sex ed. I'm thinking that the parent who's first teaching a kid the names of their body parts is doing sexuality education. Now, some parents wouldn't consider it to be sexuality education. As I said before, they teach them as soon as the kid learns to speak, 1 year old, parent gets all excited, show me your nose, right? So when they go through this, they incorporate all parts of the body. By the time a kid is, 3 years old, they're asking questions. Mm-hmm. So the parent who answers a kid's question, why does the sun shine, why does the grass grow, why is your belly so big? I'm going to have a baby, you're going to have a baby brother or a baby sister. So this is sexuality education.
Okay, at what age when the kid says, where do babies come from, can you give them the real goods on it?
Well, what's the real goods for a 3-year-old? Where do babies come from, Mummy? Babies grow in their mother's bodies. Do you have a problem with that? Does anyone have a problem with that?
Okay, at what age do you start to tell the whole story?
Little by little.
Little by little.
Little by little, and that's the whole key to it.
Do they have to ask first before you give them information?
Well, some parents like to introduce information to their children, especially a kid who hasn't said very much. Some parents want to use a teachable moment and to introduce some issues that way.
At what age should children start to be taught about the physical act of sexual intercourse?
Well, it seems to me that if a parent is giving the information little by little as the kid is growing up, there may come a certain point where they describe what intercourse is. Particularly, they'd be likely to do it in the context of making babies.
I mean, the gist of the complaint here, or the gist of the concern, let's put it that way, is that some of this information is getting into kids' hands too early. Can you do this kind of thing too early?
Well, they're getting stuff too early. There's no question about it. When I'm doing a grade 5 or 6 puberty class and I ask them if they've ever had the experience where they've been on the internet doing homework or looking for something, have they ever had a surprising picture that popped up and hands go up? Because they're exposed to sexual images that appall them. And I say, well, what do you do? And most of the kids say, well, I turn it off, or I exit. And sometimes they say, well, the pop-ups won't go away and I don't know what to do. So what we tell them is that it's not for kids. And it doesn't do them a lot of good to watch what's intended for adults.
And they buy that?
Yeah, a lot of them do.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay. By what age should children know about puberty?
Before it happens. So if kids are starting the changes of puberty as early as 7, then they need to know that there are going to be changes of puberty. So by the time a child first starts seeing hair or first starts feeling a breast bud just behind the chest, or before a boy has his first wet dream, before a girl has her first period, it's a really good idea to prepare them for that. I mean, I think a lot of your viewers will remember bleeding from a part of their body they didn't even have a name for. That's scary.
Lyba, do you think most people, you've been at this a long time. We said off the top you've been almost 3 decades with the city. Do you think in this day and age where we have information sources everywhere that people are still learning about sex ed for the first time, behind the bush at school?
Behind the bush at school. No, I think that it's not so much behind the bush at school. Sure, it's from their friends. Well, when you say behind the bush at school, let's talk
Here's what I
about
mean.
5- and 6-year-olds then.
Okay. Well, what I mean is,
yeah.
are you the first contact we're having
No.
with sex education, or they're getting it before that?
Oh, for sure.
Are they getting it from their friends, which means it might not be accurate? Are they getting it from their parents, which hopefully is more accurate? Are they getting it from their teachers, or where's it coming from?
I think that if the kid's a really lucky kid, they're going to get it from the parent or caregiver or guardian. And when I say caregiver, we also work with child care workers, and we tell them you need to be answering kids' questions, you need to be giving them the names for body parts. And kids play games when they're 5 and 6 years old. They play show me, doctor, and so on. So there's a certain element of curiosity when they explore. So yeah, they've been exposed to all kinds of aspects. When we're talking about sexuality, we're not just talking about sex acts. We're not talking about sex activities. We're talking about the global idea of what a human, what sexuality is. It has to do with your gender. It has to do with your orientation. It has to do with your feelings, your culture, your beliefs, your values, anatomical issues, all of that.
And most of that education happens where?
I think that it starts at home. And as it starts at home, by a parent who answers or who doesn't answer. Because when a parent doesn't answer, what the child is learning is, I can't ask about this, I can't talk about this. And they are more likely to seek the information elsewhere.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for setting the table. How'd you like to join me on the other side of the
Sure
studio?
thing.
We'll continue the debate.